The bank lobby was unusually quiet that afternoon. Quiet enough that every click of heels echoed, every nervous breath floated in the air like smoke. Alina stepped inside, clutching the strap of her worn-out handbag as if it were the only thing keeping her upright. Her clothes were simple, clean, pressed, but undeniably old. The kind of outfit that told people she stretched every rupee until it begged for mercy. She walked carefully toward the reception desk, eyes lowered, trying not to draw attention. But attention found her anyway. On the leather sofas near the investment counter, 4 men in tailored suits lounged, with the arrogance of people who never had to check a price tag. Their watches gleamed like tiny suns. Their laughter filled the marble hall as if the whole bank belonged to them. One of them, broad-shouldered, clean-shaven with a jaw that looked carved from expensive stone, lifted his eyes as Alina passed. His expression sharpened with curiosity, then amusement, then something colder. Leonard Malik, known in the business world as the Phantom Millionaire because he rarely appeared in interviews, rarely gave statements, rarely allowed anyone to know what he was thinking. But everyone knew this. He was rich, far richer than the country ever needed one man to be. And he was bored with his investments, bored with his perfect life, bored with how predictable everyone around him was. So when he saw Alina, nervous, small, clutching a bag like it held the last pieces of her world, his interest flicked on like a lit match. She glanced up briefly and caught his stare. Her cheeks flushed. She looked away instantly. He smirked. "Someone's nervous," he said, loud enough for his friends to hear. They chuckled. "She probably came to withdraw her last 100 rupees," another man joked. "Or maybe beg for a loan," a third added. Leonard didn't laugh. Not yet. He kept watching her as she approached a customer service desk. "Excuse me," she said quietly to the lady behind the counter. I just want to check my account balance." It was such a simple sentence, such an ordinary sentence, and yet it caught everyone's attention, including Leonard's. "Your balance?" the lady repeated kindly, as if talking to a timid child. "Of course. Your cynic, please." Alina nodded and pulled out her ID card. Her hand trembled just enough for it to be noticeable. Leonard leaned forward, elbows on his knees, as if watching a show. "What do you think it'll be?" one of his friends whispered, grinning. 500? Maybe 1,000? Leonard said nothing, but his eyes gleamed with cruel entertainment. Alina stood very still as the bank employee tapped on her keyboard. She bit her lip. Her heart thudded, not because she feared the balance, but because she feared the reaction. She had walked for 40 minutes in the heat just to reach the bank. Bus fare was something she couldn't always afford. Today mattered. Today could change everything. Behind her, Leonard's voice floated lazily across the room. "Let's place a bet," he announced to his friends. "What do you think the poor girl has in her account?" His friends laughed, eager as hungry crows. "No more than 2,000. Bet it's under 500. Maybe 0. Leonard pretended to think. "Then I say 150 rupees. Alina heard every word. She swallowed hard. She didn't turn around. She didn't glare. She didn't defend herself. She simply stood there silently, holding her breath. The bank employee looked at the screen. Then she blinked. "Oh," the woman whispered. For a moment she froze. Then she straightened, cleared her throat, and looked sharply at Alina. "Ma'am, is this really your account?" Alina nodded, confused. "Yes." The woman stared again at the screen, unable to process the number glowing before her eyes. Behind them, Leonard snorted softly. "Must be less than I guessed," he said. His friends cracked up. The employee exhaled shakily. "Ma'am, your balance is—" She didn't get to finish, because Leonard suddenly stood up. He wasn't sure why. He wasn't sure what pulled him from his leather seat. But something did. Maybe it was the flicker in the employee's eyes. Maybe it was the shift in her tone. Maybe it was the tiniest hint of something he had never associated with a woman dressed like Alina. Respect. He stepped forward casually, pretending not to care, but unable to resist curiosity. He walked right up behind her, and then he saw it. On the digital screen. Her account balance. His breath caught. His jaw slackened. His heartbeat skipped, then stumbled, then raced like lightning, because the number staring back was not 100 rupees, not 1,000, Not even 1 million. It was 950 million rupees. Nearly a billion. He blinked. Once. Twice. But the number didn't disappear. Behind him, his friends fell silent. The entire bank seemed to inhale as one. Alina simply whispered, "I just want to see if the transfer came." Transfer, as if this, for anyone else, a lifetime of money, was something ordinary. Leonard's stomach dropped, everything he had assumed, destroyed in 1 second. Alina finally turned, her eyes meeting his with quiet, steady calm. And for the first time in his life, the millionaire forgot how to breathe. A hush fell over the entire bank lobby, so deep, so sudden, that even the air seemed to stop moving. The number on the screen cast a strange glow on everyone's faces, as if reality itself had shifted and no one knew where to stand anymore. 950 million Pakistan rupees. Leonard blinked again, gripping the counter lightly as though his balance depended on it, not hers. Alina, meanwhile, simply drew a slow breath and said, "So the transfer came. Good, good, good." She spoke as though she'd been expecting it, as though nearly 1 billion rupees was nothing but a scheduled deposit. Her brows relaxed for the first time that day, and the relief on her face made her look absurdly young, not poor, not timid, not fragile. Young, as if carrying 950 million in an old handbag was just another Tuesday. The employee behind the counter cleared her throat. "Ma'am, would you like to print the balance slip?" "Yes, please," Alina said simply. Leonard stared at her, mind racing. Who was this woman? Why did she walk instead of riding a car worth at least a fraction of that balance? Why did she dress like someone who worried about the cost of food? His friends whispered behind him, "Is this a mistake?" "Has to be. No way she has that kind of money." Leonard didn't bother turning around. He was too busy observing Alina's calmness, her lack of shock, her lack of excitement. In his entire life, he had met businessmen who had screamed with joy over earning just 1 million rupees. But this girl, she hadn't even widened her eyes. The printer spat out a tiny slip. The employee passed it across the counter with both hands, like offering a sacred object. Alina took it gently, slipped it inside her handbag and murmured, "Thank you." Then she turned to leave. But Leonard stepped in her path without thinking. "Wait." She looked up. "Yes?" For the first time, since he'd built his empire, Leonard Malik struggled to form a sentence. I just... He cleared his throat. "I thought maybe there was an error." Alina blinked slowly, her expression unreadable. "Why would it be an error?" Leonard opened his mouth, then closed it. He didn't want to say, "Because you look poor." He didn't want to say, "Because I judged you." He didn't want to say, "Because people with this kind of money don't walk into a bank like this." Instead, he said, softer than he meant to, "Because people like you don't usually..." She tilted her head. "People like me?" Leonard felt heat rise in his neck. "I didn't mean it like that." "Oh." Her eyes didn't blink. "Then how did you mean it?" He had no answer, none that wouldn't make him look small. She gave him a tiny, almost invisible smile. Not prideful, not mocking, just sad. "I know how I look," she said gently. "I know what people assume." Leonard swallowed. "But," she added, lifting her chin slightly, "I've stopped explaining myself to strangers." She stepped to the side, but Leonard moved again, blocking her path once more. "I'm sorry," he said quickly. "I didn't mean to offend you." For a second, she simply studied him. Her eyes were dark but warm, steady but distant. Eyes that had seen more than her age should have allowed. "It's fine," she said. "I didn't come here for anyone's approval." Her words pricked him, sharper than needles. He watched her walk toward the exit, sunlight spilling through the glass doors as if waiting to swallow her back into the world she'd come from. She walked gracefully, not hurried, not timid, just free. Leonard felt something tighten in his chest. His friends caught up to him. "What the hell was that?" "Dude, she's loaded. She doesn't look like it at all." Leonard didn't hear them. Not fully. Not until one of them said, "Maybe she's the mistress of some politician?" Another said, "Or someone wired her money by mistake." Leonard turned sharply. It wasn't a mistake. "How do you know?" He didn't, but he felt it. The way she stood, the way she breathed, the way she didn't flinch at the number. That wasn't the attitude of someone whose fortune was an accident. That was the attitude of someone used to power, and yet everything about her contradicted that. Leonard's jaw clenched. Something about her didn't add up, and he didn't like unsolved puzzles. He stepped outside the bank doors just in time to see her standing beneath a tree, trying to wave down a rickshaw. No driver stopped. They ignored her, like they always ignored women who looked too ordinary. Leonard felt something twist inside him. He walked toward her. She noticed him and sighed, quietly. "Why are you following me?" "I'm not," he lied. "I'm just curious." She gave him a flat look. Curiosity from a millionaire is dangerous. He exhaled, almost laughing. "You know who I am?" She shrugged. "Your face was in an investment magazine last month." Leonard paused. She read investment magazines? "Look," he said carefully, "at least let me offer you a ride." "No," she said instantly. "I'm fine. You're struggling to find a rickshaw." "I always struggle," she said softly. "I'm used to it." That hit him harder than she meant. "Please," Leonard said, more urgently than he liked, "let me take you wherever you're going." She looked at him again, really looked. Her voice turned soft. "People don't offer kindness without a motive." Leonard didn't flinch. "Then let my motive be a chance to understand you." Silence. Wind brushed her hair gently. Traffic hummed in the background. Finally, Alina sighed. "Fine. Just a ride. Nothing more." Leonard nodded. Nothing more. But as she walked beside him toward his car, he had a sinking feeling. Nothing about this woman was just anything, and nothing about her story was going to be simple. Leonard opened the door of his sleek black SUV, one of his least flashy cars, thank God. If he'd brought the bright red sports car he usually used to boost his ego, he would have felt ridiculous standing next to her. Alina stepped inside carefully, as though afraid she'd stain the leather. That tiny gesture stabbed at him for reasons he didn't understand. He got in, started the engine, and pulled into the traffic. For a full minute, neither of them spoke. The city blurred past the windows, shops, buses, people living too fast and too hard. But inside the car it was strangely quiet, like a world paused between breaths. Finally, Leonard said, "Where should I drop you?" "Near Gulshan Market," she said softly. He froze for half a second. Gulshan Market. A poor neighborhood. But he didn't comment. Not this time. Instead, he said, "That's far. Almost 30 minutes. "I know," she replied calmly. "I walk usually. You walk that far every day? Most days?" He gripped the steering wheel tighter. The idea of someone with nearly $1 billion rupees walking through dirt roads and noisy streets, struggling with rickshaws, living in a place where electricity cut out twice a day. It made no sense. No sense at all. Leonard shot a glance at her. She sat quietly, hands folded in her lap, staring out the window. But her eyes weren't drifting. They were sharp, observant, as if she was measuring the world, not escaping it. He cleared his throat. "If you don't mind, can I ask something?" She didn't turn. "You're already asking." He stiffened. "Right. I just wanted to know, how long have you had that money?" Her gaze stayed outside. An hour, he repeated. "And before that, I had about 800 rupees. Leonard almost braked on the spot. 800, he whispered. "As in, less than 1,000? "Yes." He stared at her profile. Calm, composed, almost serene. "And now you have nearly $1 billion. "Life is strange," she said simply. That answer infuriated him. He'd built his fortune over years, years filled with ruthless decisions, sleepless nights, impossible calculations, and sacrifices he still didn't speak of. Nothing had been handed to him. He'd clawed his way up, sometimes with blood under his nails. Yet, here she was, daughter of no one, wearing stitched-up sandals, and somehow she held more money than many CEOs he negotiated with. Leonard inhaled sharply. "Can you tell me how you got it?" "No." "Why not?" "Because it doesn't concern you." That didn't just irritate him, it intrigued him more. He tried a different angle. Was it an inheritance? No. A settlement? No. A lottery? She almost smiled. "I don't gamble. So what was it?" he demanded. Alina finally turned her head toward him. Her eyes weren't angry. They weren't defensive. They were sad. "It was payment," she whispered. "For what?" She looked away again. "For something I should never have had to do." Leonard felt a punch of dread in his chest. "What do you mean?" She didn't answer. Silence spread again, heavier this time. Denser, as though the air thickened with unsaid stories. Then he noticed her hands. Small, slim. But something was wrong. Bruises. Faint, healing, but visible. Leonard's stomach twisted. Someone hurt you. Alina didn't look at him. Yes. Who? She remained quiet. Leonard's hands curled into fists on the steering. Heat crawled up his spine, anger sharp and sudden. An unfamiliar protectiveness coiled in his chest. Tell me who, he said, voice deeper than he intended. She shook her head. It's over. I got paid. I don't want trouble. Paid for what? He pressed. Her voice dropped. To disappear. Leonard's breath froze. What? Finally she turned, fully toward him, and her expression was hollow, like someone who'd walked out of a storm still soaked from the rain. They wanted me gone, she said softly. Out of the city, out of their lives, out of the way. Who wanted you gone? My husband's family. Leonard's grip tightened, so hard his knuckles whitened. You're married? Widowed? He blinked. I'm sorry, so am I. She exhaled, the sound trembling. His family hated me. They blamed me for his illness, called me a curse. They said my bad luck killed their son. Leonard felt heat rising in his blood, anger he didn't even know he could feel for a stranger. What illness? Kidney failure, she whispered. He died last month. Leonard swallowed hard. So, the money? She nodded slowly. They transferred it today, their compensation for the years I spent taking care of him, and their demand that I leave the city forever. Why? Because, she said, voice cracking, I am not from their class, I'm not from their world, and they didn't want to see me again. Leonard stared at her, really stared. Suddenly her clothes made sense. Her tired face made sense. Her silence, her strength, her sadness. It all made sense. They threw me out the day after his funeral, she whispered. Today was the first time I gathered courage to check if the money arrived. It feels unreal. Leonard's chest tightened painfully. The girl with nothing, the girl who walked miles, the girl who carried bruises and silence, the girl who had been discarded like she didn't matter, and yet she sat, spine straight, chin lifted, dignity unbroken. He exhaled slowly. Alina, you don't deserve any of this. She looked out the window again. Everyone deserves something, but life isn't fair. Leonard drove for a long moment, speechless. Then he asked quietly, where exactly in Gulshan Market should I drop you? She hesitated. The old building near the bakery. Second floor. He blinked. He knew that area. Too many people, too little safety, not a place for a woman alone. You live there? He asked. For now. Alina, with the money you have, you can live anywhere. She smiled faintly. Money doesn't erase fear. He felt that in his bones. He parked near the building she pointed. Before she got out, she paused. You've been kind, she said softly, despite how you first judged me. Thank you for the ride. She reached for the door. But Leonard said, Alina? Yes? Will I see you again? She froze, then turned, eyes unreadable. I don't think our worlds crossed twice. She stepped out. But as she walked away, quiet, graceful, swallowed by the narrow alley, Leonard had a sinking certainty. He was already too deep to walk away. He would see her again. He had to, because something about her story wasn't finished, not even close for. For the first time in years, Leonard Malik couldn't focus. Not on the contracts waiting on his desk, not on the numbers flashing on his stock screens, not on the business meeting his assistant reminded him of 3 times. His mind kept drifting back to the girl with the quiet voice and the billion-rupee balance. Alina, a woman who walked miles, who lived in a crumbling building, who carried bruises and silence like old scars, a woman whose dignity shone brighter than her poverty ever could. He replayed her words again and again. They transferred it today. They wanted me gone. I've stopped explaining myself to strangers. Something in him refused to let her fade back into the world she came from. By evening, he was pacing his office, unable to sit still. His best friend and business partner, Ferris, walked in and raised an eyebrow. What's wrong with you? You look like someone stole your car. Leonard stopped pacing. Ferris, I met someone. Oh no. Ferris sighed dramatically. Every time you say that, I lose a year of my life. What happened now? Leonard took a breath and told him everything. The bank, the balance, the bruises, The husband, the forced payout, the broken home, the courage wrapped in quietness. Ferris listened without interrupting, his face slowly shifting from amusement to concern to anger. By the end, he slammed his fist on the table. So her husband's family basically dumped her, after she spent years taking care of their dying son. Leonard nodded. And they paid her to disappear? Leonard nodded again. Ferris exhaled sharply. And she lives alone? In Gulshan? His eyes widened. Bro, that neighborhood is crawling with trouble after dark. Leonard felt those words like a punch. His heart twisted sharply. I know, he whispered. Something inside him hardened, an unfamiliar protectiveness that tightened around his ribs like steel. I'm going back, Leonard said abruptly. Right now. Ferris blinked. Good, because I was going to hit you if you didn't. The search. It took 15 minutes for Leonard to reach her neighborhood. The sun had already set. Street dogs barked. Groups of men lingered near shop corners, watching everything with hungry eyes. Shadows clung to walls as if waiting for something to go wrong. Leonard's expensive car stood out like a gold coin in a gutter. He stepped out anyway. People stared. Some whispered. Some smirked. But Leonard ignored every single one of them as he climbed the narrow staircase to the second floor of the old building. He reached her door. Knocked once. No answer. Knocked again. Louder. Still nothing. His heartbeat sped up. Then, faintly, like someone forcing courage into their voice, he heard footsteps approaching. The door opened slowly. Alina stood there, wrapped in a faded shawl, her hair loose around her shoulders, eyes wide with surprise. Leonard? She breathed. He swallowed. May I come in? She hesitated, then stepped aside, inside her world. Her apartment was small, so small the entire space could fit inside one of his walk-in closets. A thin mattress, a wooden chair, a cracked mirror, a single bulb, a pile of medical bills in the corner. And quiet. So much quiet. He turned toward her. You live like this? She pulled her shawl tighter. It's temporary. Temporary until what? He demanded. Until I can figure out where to go. Leonard's jaw clenched. Alina, you're not safe here. She gave a tired smile. I've never been safe anywhere. That broke something inside him. He took a step closer. Why didn't you leave earlier? Why stay silent all this time? Her eyes softened with pain. Because my husband needed me. Because love makes you tolerate things you shouldn't. Because leaving would have meant abandoning him to a family that hated me. Leonard felt a lump in his throat. She continued quietly. When he died, I thought maybe they'd treat me differently. I was wrong. They told me I was a burden, that I brought misfortune, that I was nothing without him. Leonard stared at her, this fragile-looking woman who held storms inside her. You're not nothing, he said, voice low. You never were. She blinked, stunned. He took another step closer. You survived cruelty. That alone makes you extraordinary. Her breath trembled. Then she whispered, Why are you here, Leonard? He hesitated, because he didn't know if the truth was too much. Finally, he said softly, Because I couldn't stop thinking about you. Her lips parted slightly. Because, he continued, you walked out of that bank like you'd spent your whole life carrying weight on your shoulders, and now, even with all that money, you're still carrying it. She looked down. Money doesn't buy peace. No, he agreed, but someone can help you find it. She looked up. Their eyes met. Time stopped. Then her voice, barely above a whisper, Why me? And without overthinking, without calculating, without analyzing, without building walls like he always did, Leonard spoke the truth. Because you make me feel something I haven't felt in years. Silence. Warm, unbreaking, fragile. He stepped even closer. Slowly, giving her time to move away if she wanted. She didn't move. Instead, she whispered, I'm not used to kindness. Then let me teach you. Her breath hitched. Leonard, you don't have to trust me, he said softly. Not today, not tomorrow, not this year. Her eyes glistened. But let me be someone who stands beside you, he continued. Not because of your money, not because of your past, but because you deserve to have someone in your corner. Tears spilled down her cheek. He gently brushed one away with his thumb. She didn't flinch. Instead, she closed her eyes, as though the touch was something she'd been starving for without realizing. When she opened them, something inside her had shifted, softened, opened. She whispered, "I don't know how to start over." He smiled gently. "Then let me help you start." "How?" He offered his hand. "Come with me," he said. "Let me show you that your life isn't over, it's just beginning." Alina stared at his hand, hesitated, then placed her trembling fingers in his. A simple touch, but powerful, a beginning, the world outside. He walked her down the narrow stairs, through the crowded street, toward his car. But something was different now. People still stared. But she didn't lower her eyes this time. She walked with her head slightly higher, not because she had a billionaire balance, not because she was with Leonard Malik, but because for the first time in years, someone saw her, really saw her, and valued her. Leonard opened the car door for her again. She stepped inside, this time without hesitation. As he took the driver's seat, she whispered, "Leonard, yes, thank you for coming back." He smiled softly. "I didn't come back." She frowned. "What do you mean?" He started the engine, looked at her, and said quietly, "I never left." She stared at him and smiled, a real smile, one that reached her eyes, one that promised the beginning of something neither of them expected. The night wrapped around them as the car pulled away, carrying a woman who learned her worth, and a man who finally discovered his heart. And that is how a millionaire's laughter turned into silence, and how a broken girl found the first light of her new life. The end.